3 MDC5. And as you know, the math scoping sequence is full of hyperlinks. So where would it take you if you clicked on the standard? Achieve the core coherence math. Okay, yes. We could bring it to companion documents with LDOE, but it's a lot friendlier for teachers to see the achieve the core coherence math because it shows them what comes before this standard and what comes after. It's very visual and it's very clear, and they've gotten used to it because we've been sharing it with them since 2019 at Southwood on PD Day. Okay, so 3MDC5, and I'm just going to write this up here, and I'm going to tell you it is a major standard because it's the first time we're introducing this type of measurement. And if you were to read it, it'll tell you recognize area of plane figures. What do we know about plane figures? Oh, I love that. It's my one math person. Y'all were all talking during literacy. However, now we're like, yes. Okay. Plane figures are going to be two-dimensional flat figures. Okay. We're also going to hear the words unit squares. What does that tell us? It tells us the units we're going to be measuring in. Right now, it's going to be just unit squares. It can say centimeters, inches, and all that, but as they begin, we're just going to talk about them as unit squares. This is measurement. That's why it's MD. No gaps or overlays. No gaps or overlays. You're going to see what that means. But that's all part of this standard. Did you hear anything about a formula? No. Okay, so if you walk in Monday, January 8th, to a third grade classroom, and you see them giving the kids a formula, I'm gonna need you to just write them up. I'm just kidding, I wouldn't do that. But I would ask, why are you doing that already? Because right now, what you're gonna see is we are full conceptual. This is not about formulas. It's not about let's skip and get to shortcuts. So what we need to do is complete the assessments. As the instructional specialist on your campus or the administrator, when you walk into a classroom or you're going in to observe, you need to have your laptop all of the time because you should be able to pull up Zern and it shouldn't take you 17 hours to pull it up. It should be very quick through ClassLink. And you should pull up the Tower of Power. Why do I want you to pull up the Tower of Power? Okay, it does help us understand what's going to happen for the students. Is it what the teacher is supposed to be doing? No. Tell me more about why no.
The student has to be able to, because that's like how you know if they learned it.
Okay, we know how they learned it. What the student has to do. Why would I want you or the teacher to do this as they're planning?
You know what they're gonna struggle with.
We know some struggles that they might have. Can we make connections throughout the lesson? Definitely. Okay, so we're gonna choose grade 3, mission 4, and we're gonna go to lesson 1. Now, this is not the success criteria for me as the teacher. This is what Shreve Island has called our teacher notes. Like it's something for us. You should see in any annotation of a lesson plan, something like this. TOP, that's my shorthand. I was a server too. Shorthand for me, Tower of Power, TOP, top. They can write out the whole thing, they can just put tower. Doesn't matter to me. But you should see that for every lesson that has a digital piece. There are very few lessons in each grade level that do not have digital lessons. So if they don't, or if they're kindergarten this year, they don't. You would not do this piece. Next year, Zern has a short meet. Everything is changing for kindergarten. So we should see my team working on kindergarten trainings this summer, and hopefully you will ensure that they come and highly encourage them. because we are fun and we want them to understand that they will have what everybody else has. You click the Tower of Power and let's write our notes. You're gonna tell me notes, so I'm gonna need to hear some things happen. What do I need to do or know? No, but good math language, Miss Jones, we use lots of typewriters in K two. But it is just a rectangle for now.
Yeah. How do I do that? Square and line.
Okay, so remember I said no overlays or gaps. So this is showing us, and guys, if you don't know this, they can quickly do this.
You're just measuring.
Before I used to drag everything, but kids also that. Yes, Mrs. Brumley, they are measuring, but right now we're just covering the rectangle that we have. The one I had earlier told me to cover for 6 tiles. This one's 12, I believe. But I just want to know that I can identify a rectangle. And I also want to know that they are going to have to tile said rectangle. You'll hear that come up a lot. Use the tiles, do the tiling to cover the rectangle. All right, now what is it asking?
Where's now? Okay.
Oh, now y'all all jump in. Identify the number of squares, and I do believe we did 12. Now, see, we're just talking about 14. Oh, we did 14. See, I didn't count. Good job, guys. I am vulnerable enough to make mistakes in front of my friends and teachers, and you should too.
You did it on purpose.
No, I really didn't. But I would say that probably in front of myself. I did that on purpose. See if you catch me. And they used to. So I'm gonna put I identify quantity or number of squares. These are my notes. So as I'm teaching the lesson as a teacher, I can relate to this and I can give them connections. Guys, you're gonna see this in the Tower of Power. Lisa uses squares to find the area of a rectangle. How many squares does she use to cover? So now we're just talking about area and identify area as coverage. See, I put ID because that to me means identify. 2, 4, 6, 8 squares. There we go. The numbers, the quantities are different.
Something different, so I was like.
Look at my university people over here doing the Tower of Power on their own. Everybody, okay, so Zern used to not do that, right? And people would be looking at each other's computers like, oh, tell me what you got. Guys, I can log in 7 times today and I could get the same thing 7 times in a row. But I could log in tomorrow and get 3 different quantities. So it's very, very important. Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for bringing that up. I didn't put identify 12 as the area. Okay, we're just talking generally, what are students gonna have to do and how can I connect it for them? So now we're connecting that area as coverage and we are going to understand square units. Remember, that goes back to 3 and DC5 because I said we're going to have no overlays or gaps. I said we're gonna talk about square units. 2, 4, 6, 8. So the area is 8 square units. This is attending to precision, by the way, using those square units.
Sorry, girl. I'm sorry.
They're busy up north today, drilling away.
It's so funny though, because when I have site-based teacher leaders, all of theirs go off for like recess, restroom break, and all the things. It cracks me up. Okay, do both rectangles have the same area? Ooh, what are we doing here? Oh yeah, we're comparing area. Are these the same rectangles? Are these the same? No? So they start talking about perimeter, we're not there yet. But if your advanced children bring that up, we can talk about it. So I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. What might a third grader at this point in the year connect this to? 3 times 5. So they may start connecting it and they may start talking about arrays. You are not talking about it. You are not giving them this formula, because that's not what it told us to do in this lesson. It'll tell us to do that in future lessons. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And they may say, oh, Miss B, all you did was rotate that. You're right. But earlier, I got one that was 3 by 3 and 1 by 9. So I saw 2 very different rectangles. Here, it's just rotating, translated, whatever. Okay. Do they have the same area? What is it asking now? So then I'm also gonna put fill in sentence frames, because this will help me bring in the language. So, yes, both rectangles are covered by the same number of square units. It may be different on theirs. I don't know what they're gonna get. So you may just wanna have some sentence frames ready and available through the lesson. And that happens a lot in Tower of Power. We'll see sentence frames like that, and they don't show up in the actual lesson. Okay. That's not mine. We completed the Tower of Power. What do we need to look at next? Go to page 6 in your lesson. And by 6, I mean the handwritten 6, not the typed out. And you see the exit ticket down at the bottom. You also see the answer given to you, because this is teacher material. So let's talk about what students need to know and do to complete this exit ticket. And let's identify the success criteria. And I'm not gonna say what it is, so you tell me.
Identify a cube as 1 square.
Okay, so I do need to know, is it a cube?
No, sorry, a square.
No, 1 square is equal to 1 square unit. This is important because later on, it might change, okay? Later on, it might say, 2 square centimeters. They're gonna change it up. What else?
Know how to compare and explain how you know it.
Okay, we do have to know area. Obviously, that's important, right? Because we have to know area as what? Oh, yeah, as coverage. Or tiling. Okay, what else do we have to do?
You have to know how to play.
Casey's trying to go a little beyond.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. This is the hardest part for teachers. And we saw this again when we were practicing this at Shreve Island and Broadmoor. Tell me, Ms. Dunn.
They need to be able to know if both have the same.
So what are they gonna do?
They're gonna compare.
No, before that, you said count.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so y'all start going ahead and so do teachers. But let's think about this. This is what we're gonna post for the students. These are my notes to help me. But what I'm gonna have, posted on the board is what I want students to be able to know and do at the end. So they're going to count square units. Let's just put a rectangle. Count square units of rectangles. Is it okay if they skip count? Yes. Is it okay if they decide, hey, I figured out I can multiply? Yes, for them, but our success criteria right now is just counting. Let's make sure we know how many are there. Then what can we do? Compare. And that might be us asking, same or not. I might even put that up there for my students. When we compare and you're looking at these two different rectangles, I just want you to ask yourself, are these the same or are they different? Are we done? Why not? They have to explain, okay, so I could just put explain, but let me tell you what I would do. Cause I'm special. I went to the achievement level descriptors and I looked up advanced for this specific standard 3 MDC5. So if you're a third, fourth, or fifth grade teacher, you're sitting with your 3-5 teachers, you're gonna say, have you looked at the achievement level descriptor for this standard? Because Amanda's tired of Cato only having 5% mastery in math. Amanda wants a lot more. No, Amanda's gonna ask you, please take a look. And I know that it said to get to advanced, they have to describe a visual model to show understanding. So I might say explain describing visual models. So third down there, it just says, yes, both rectangles have an area of 9 square units because they both take up 9 square units. To me, that's not enough. That might get us to mastery. And if that's good enough for you, I want them advanced. I want them to be able to say, the top rectangle has 3 rows of 3. And that is 3 times 9, if they can connect that. And that tells me it has 9 squares. The bottom rectangle is only 1 row of 9 square units. But they are both 9 square units. So I would probably, as a third grade teacher, put that. Explain, describing using a visual model. The other part of the advance was that they connect the multiplication. Some of your third graders will already start doing that. But we are gonna give them that in future lessons, okay?
I have a question.
What's up?
We talked about this yesterday in math and the hang up, I think, for some of our teachers, they only wanted to put on success criteria what they will see on the paper. So like no and count, they were leaving those off. That, am I making sense?
You
So
are,
like, it was, I mean, finally we got to it, but they were having a hard time understanding how it can be things that they can't see.
Yes,
That they
so-
want students to do.
and Ms. Jones and I practice this a lot with K2 because our K2 teachers, especially in first grade, they'll be like, find the difference. Okay, but
Right.
it really wasn't find the difference. If we looked back at the standard, it was relate subtraction to addition with a model. And all they said was find the difference, but that didn't even get us to our objective. So I'm going to challenge you with all of your teachers, whether they're gifted or brand new to math, and with you, have them talk about what's not there. Because what does a student have to know to be able to do this? They do have to know that 1 square is 1 square unit. They also have to know area as coverage and tiling. They have to be able to count those squares. Because many of you, which is what I hear in a lot of math teachers, they go straight to, well, they have to compare and explain. Okay, but that's really not everything they need to do.
More challenging for those who were like,
K2.
first grade, it was 2 shoes that they had to, they weren't using a ruler yet. It's like, so they started having those, so look at this side. You know, it was hard for them.
Okay, so I would like for you to think about if we give this to our students and they have this right here, what might they do I want you to turn to page 8. This lesson actually uses the problem set. That's not always the case. This one does. I would like for you, I don't have pattern blocks with me, but I mean, I do in the closet, but, pattern blocks, we're gonna either use little triangles or little rectangle squares, covered in tile. I want you to look at numbers 5 and 6 and see what you can do with this success criteria to complete numbers 5 and 6 on your own. Okay, but you're just gonna draw. Come on. Cause I'm gonna have, people stand up and share. So funny, because you get.
You're assuming we have.
I'm assuming you have.
You do.
There you go. But no, you're good. No, you don't. Right. That's so funny. And then you're like. But because I didn't give you. You're still able to solve, so I want you to keep going through.
This will be like this, that's not gonna be.
I'm not gonna check questions, I tell them, and I highly suggest that they read it. Okay, throughout the lesson. And I think that's. And I have seen. Yeah, I did.
Well,
Okay.
because I was thinking this, I tried to make.
Let's go to, let's start with Ms. Wright. I have to, because some of you, it's clear, you just stopped using pattern blocks. Because you very clearly remember that pattern blocks were 1-inch squares. And so Miss Irwin and Miss Nelson and Miss Wright, and there were a few others in the back. Miss Wright, will you stand up and explain what you did in conjunction with our success criteria for number 5?
Alrighty then. Good morning.
Mrs. Wright?
Okay, so know that one square equals one square unit. Well, the square pattern blocks are 1 inch that we use, so I kind of used some informal measurement. And I covered with 6 pattern blocks.
Cause we know that our pinky right here is
Yeah.
about an inch.
Yeah.
She's a real math teacher, guys. That's why.
And so my answer was, wait, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to go here, so I did cover, then I counted, there was nothing to compare here. Was it, or you want me to go?
No, that's it.
Okay.
So what would your area have been after you counted?
6 square units.
Okay, so at this point, we don't have to compare because we do not have 2 shapes, right? Okay, so let's go to number 6. Ms. Nelson, I'm gonna ask you to help us out here. What did it? Come on,
Okay.
come on. What- Please welcome one of my other incredible math team members.
Okay, it says use trapezoid pattern blocks to cover the rectangle in problem 5. So the first thing kids are gonna do are get these. Yeah, that's a trapezoid if you didn't remember. Okay, so they're gonna put them on, and are they gonna fit just perfect? No. So I think some got stuck on, okay, but it says use the trapezoid, like before even reading the rest of the question, but that doesn't work. Then it says, can you use trapezoid pattern blocks to measure the area of this rectangle? And you just said, no. And then.
So do we have success criteria up here for that?
Well, this is a trapezoid, not a square, so we can.
But we have to explain, because what does it tell us to do on number 6? Explain your answer and describe a visual model. So you would describe, my trapezoids don't fit completely on top, and they might even draw one to match what was up there, and then you can do some comparisons. We're not going that far. That's actually, I marked it as an advanced piece as part of our achievement level descriptors. And I did mark number 4 the same way. Look at number 4 and read it. Why did I mark number 4 as advanced with an achievement level descriptor?
They're smaller than it is.
Depends on the size of the unit.
So they're gonna need to describe. They're going to need to explain, and we can keep going back. Guys, use your description of a visual model. And when you're describing a visual model, you can draw the visual model if you have paper. But we know on the LEAP test, they're on computer, they don't always get to draw very well. That's why they need to describe and explain. We're going back to literacy here. I'm tired of walking into classrooms and seeing, write a sentence. How is that one sentence gonna explain the process we just went through and about trapezoids not being connected completely to the square pattern blocks? And actually a trapezoid, if you looked at it, they typically put them like that in triangles, and then we manipulate them around. This is all about getting students to conceptually understand what's happening. Go back to the objective on the first page. What's our objective? Okay. You don't have to have all of the knowledge that Miss Wright or Miss Nelson do because they're on the math team and they are math people. Instead, you're going to be asking questions, and there is a whole folder of sample success criteria in our Caddo Elementary Math Resource Library. So this is from Walnut Hill. Alyssa Ivy, Mission 3, Lesson 9. She wrote the objective, model the associative property as a strategy to multiply. Her success criteria for her and for her students that help them simplify larger factors into smaller factors. Because in this mission, they were dealing with 6, 7s, 8s, and 9s. And she wanted to use what they knew was 1, 2, 3, 4s, and 5s. Number 2, find the product by moving the parentheses, because we're gonna associate these over here with these parentheses and these over here. Then 3, explain how your strategy works. This is from 4th grade university, Miss Rossi, lesson 26. I think it was mission 2 or 3, I can't remember. Her success criteria: use a place value chart to solve division problems. Write the answer in standard form and unit form. Solve a word problem using RDW. This is a lot more succinct, but then she had another poster for RDW. And she keeps that one up there, all of it. Okay. So when y'all ask me, because believe me, I've sat with some principals and coordinators lately, is this right? Is this right? Am I doing it right? And I'm like, is it good for you? Is it helpful for you? Can you take an exit ticket and go through these steps and truly understand? Can you look at some of the problems we're gonna go through? Do you need that for each of the problems? This is one of my, overachievers in 2nd grade, also at university, Miss Amy Taylor. If you want to see her and get her mind, today she will be on Wonderful Wednesday at 3:30 in our 2nd grade breakout room. So she had rewrite the problem vertically and align the digits, and she put a little vertical line there. This is 2nd grade. This was mission 4. I can promise you, if Abigail, my 2nd grade baby, had that up in her room, she probably would be doing really well right now. Because I watched the very first time this was introduced to the 2nd graders at university, and they got it. Draw discs or chips on the PVC, place value chart, for the whole using neat 5 groups. She emphasized the neat 5 groups because that's a huge piece with those place value charts, and she even put her neat 5 group there. So this is a lot, but she's special, okay? And she's a lot, but her students are used to it. Number 3, unbundle 110 for 10 ones if needed on the PVC, and then she shows unbundle it, cross it out, move it. Rename the whole on the vertical form, because not only are they doing place value chart, they are learning the standard algorithm. Right now they call it vertical form. Okay. Subtract the part on the PVC and the vertical form to find the difference. Check your work by adding backwards. Part plus part equals whole. Here's a 4th grade Forest Hill, Miss Burris. Rewrite numbers and measurements with larger units. Convert liters and milliliters to liters. Compare measurements. Place measurements of weight on number line. No conversions in order of numbers. So what I'm trying to show you is that there are many ways to get success criteria. And I didn't even ask my site-based teacher leaders for this. What I asked them for originally was their lesson plans, because I just wanted to see how they annotated. And we were looking at some things with our content leader. And all of a sudden, I started getting all of this success criteria and pictures of it posted in their rooms. And I was like, yes, great, because that's exactly what I'm about to ask you for anyway. So I have all of these examples here. Okay, in kindergarten, it looks a little different. Bridget Brown will not be on the call today, but Ms. Griffiths will be for kindergarten. And we talk about using pictures. Look at what Bridget's first criteria every time is. No, you laugh, but it's necessary, right? Name. And then she has, oh gosh, redraw right. Think about the weights. And we have listed also right next to it what the exit ticket was. Okay. Oh, here's one Broadmoor sent us after we did some work over there. Another kindergarten, right, Miss Spellman? Look at the cube stick and put the eyeballs. Count how many cubes are in the smaller stick. Write how many. Circle the smaller stick. Again, this is what works best for your teacher and their students. Here we are, I think this was, Ms. French at Shreve Island first grade, her success criteria. Decompose the team numbers. This is on the board for first graders. Because they were subtracting and they had to decompose team numbers, then they had to draw their 5 group rows, and look, she put their 5 groups. Circle 10, they had to circle this because they were about to take 9 from it or something. Take from the 10 and solve. We haven't even looked at the lesson yet, but what is this doing for us?
Setting up the students what they're gonna do, see, and then step by step, you keep repeating it. And they become independent, learn, work independently, they don't have those skills.
When they start working independently, they're gonna think back to some of this, because we're starting them now. There was one of Miss Trombetta at Riverside. She has started putting it on charts, and the kids, asked recently when Miss O'Neill was doing walks there, hey, the kids asked Mr. Bett, where's our chart with our criteria? Like, they'll ask for it. And she keeps this, and it doesn't change a whole lot in certain topics. Your success criteria might be the same for a couple of lessons. They might add a different model. They might have to do 3-digit numbers instead of 2-digit numbers. Do I unbundle 100? She's asking that, like, the kids need to ask themselves that. Yep, I wanna find the redraw right one, because that's the one, I think it was Rossi.
You have an RDW.
Where? No, like Rossi has an actual,
It's saved as RDW.
oh, look,
all
you're
right.
so smart, so you know my brain. We work together too long then. Okay, so this one is the redraw right, sorry, it's not, it says read the problem and decide what it is asking you to find. Determine the operation or operations needed to solve. Draw a model to represent the problem. We're gonna take off write a sentence, but it says solve using determine operations, write a sentence. I'm gonna say, write a full explanation describing your process. Okay? Yes, when we started this 5 years ago, we said write a sentence. We're now past that and we need advanced. Okay? Let's make that note. Ms. Thomas. We don't have to make a read another thing, but I just want more. I want more. And we should all want more. Because our kids are capable. Write a description explaining your process. That does not only works in math, but it also helps our wonderful literacy people, right? I'm all about helping others out. Haven't you seen those advanced choice boards? They have science substrates on them too. Yeah. They do. Okay, question before we keep going. Oh, come on then. Okay, so y'all do know, this is not new. Oh my gosh. Sorry, somehow I hit call back. We've been annotating lessons. Now, I do know there are some schools, and I hope it's not in here, but I don't know for sure, that are making people do full lessons, like rewriting everything. Okay, guys, if they're not annotating, you need to go back and pull up that math planning template. Okay, I don't know why this has been forgotten or not used. It's the same for the last 5 years. I updated every year just to make sure terminology is similar. There's pre-work, doing the assessments, what we just did. Could be topic quizzes, quarterly assessments, have them come with their assessments for the week already completed. That way, y'all can either go through the mission level or the annotating lessons level. And here are the questions you're gonna ask. We just did, bless you, A, B, and Z. We did what will students be asked to do in the Zern digital platform. We're about to look at concept exploration. We asked, what is the success criteria, meaning how will we know they have mastered the lesson's objective? What standards are we targeting in this lesson? Okay, if y'all want to go to standards-based reporting, which I actually made a whole wonderful, beautiful template and sent it to my boss last night. And it's based very closely on that progression to mastery we already have on our scope and sequence. It's also based on what the flame document for LDOE uses with like beginning, progressing and consistent. We're hoping maybe we can start with kindergarten, then roll into first and roll into second. And I asked her if we could roll into third, fourth and fifth. It's gonna take some mind shifts. It will. But if we are answering these problems or these questions and we're talking about the standards and where they need to get, like we did here, it's not gonna be difficult for us and we don't have to worry about all the grading and the fluffing of the grades. Yo, I can't. I just can't. My child, her grade's not fluffed at all, but we're taking tests on math for today. Don't get me started. And then they're taking grades on fluency practice tests we have to do at home for homework. Don't get me started. You right? Dr. Minor's back there going,
I'm smiling.
I know, but you probably know how.
my school.
No, it's not your school. No, my kid's not in here. No, I promise. It's so frustrating for me because my kid can do this stuff. She can meet the standard, but she's coming home with a D for the second year in a row. She's only in second grade. Why are we grading those things? And they're worth more points than the quizzes they give related to our standards. I've already tried. Shannon tells me I just have to homeschool her, like she homeschools them. I'm like, I don't know what. I cannot. Okay, so let's look at the next piece. If they're annotating, the questions that we can ask first, that's ELA. I closed mine out, didn't I? Okay, look on your, no, that's hers. Oh, it's under there. Kidding. If you don't want to ask all those questions from the math planning template, go with these. What core supports can we provide for struggling students? Well, with this lesson, it's not a core support, but it's asked in the conceptual piece for pattern blocks. So if you're in third grade, when they're doing this lesson and you don't see pattern blocks, ask them why. Because it should have come in the manipulative kit. I mean, one bit so nice. There should be pattern blocks. We should have the problem set printed out, because it actually tells you in the concept exploration on page 2 or 3 that you need the problem set. What other core supports could I provide? I would definitely be doing small groups. I would not do this whole group. I would do at least 2 groups, and because I'm just special, I would probably do 3 groups. And it's okay to do that. Why would I want to do that? Because I want to make sure they're being precise with how they place their pattern blocks. So if you're in a 3rd grade classroom and you see this whole group, I'd ask why, bless you. What else might we do for struggling students? Oh, what did Ms. Irwin point out? What did you say?
Page 5.
Page 5. Hey, did y'all know CERN gives you multiple means of engagement? What does it tell us, Ms. Irwin?
Sticky notes, desktops, portals, linking views, creative poster to share with class. Which has another idea.
Yeah, there are other ideas. We can use the sticky notes as the pattern block, and they could do a big one on chart paper. And you could have a carousel going of our students, right? Other core supports, if Shannon doesn't know what a trapezoid is, I'm gonna pair with Jacqueline, who might be able to help her. Right? And be like, okay, when we get to those trapezoids, please help her find the trapezoid. Right? I'm great with reading. I can't explain the reading.
That's why we're here.
I might need help with somebody explaining the reading to me. And then how will I provide academic feedback and adjust instructing? These two questions, if you don't get to any of the other ones on the planning template, that's why they're in the slide deck. These two questions will help you and your teacher think about what is necessary. Where can I provide academic feedback to? Ms. Sparks, Ms. Price, Ms. Cheney, I haven't heard from y'all. Where might I provide academic feedback?
A lot when we talk about laying down the squares, make sure they're laying down side by side, they don't have that, not overlaying again.
Okay, we definitely need to attend to that, because right, in that part of the standard overlay and gaps. So if I know Shannon's real crazy with her squares, then I'm gonna say, okay, Jacqueline, can you make sure? And I'm gonna, and make sure to bring me over. I need to check Shannon's overlay. If she's not tracing it properly, I need to say, hey, let's be more precise, let's take our time. What's another way I can provide academic feedback? Where did I see this the other day? I can't remember. I was somewhere with someone. And the kids kept going, but that's not what the success criteria says. And then, oh, I was at North Highlands, which isn't in this cluster. And Miss Williams, Sheba, who formerly ELA, but also math before that, she and I were sitting in a second grade classroom, and those kids kept telling the teacher, but we have to do that part of the success criteria because they were in that whole, let's put it on the place value chart. They needed to use neat 5 groups. They kept going back, and she would say, look at your success criteria. What are your 5 groups when we look at that? That's academic feedback. And one thing I love to see is a teacher with a marker or a pen, whether the kids are right in front of them or they're on Zern and the exit tickets are out. And then if you see someone who's having trouble, I can call them. Brittany used to do this. She would take all the exit tickets up, everybody would be on Zern Digital. She's checking them. She's calling them. Casey, tell me why you did this. Okay, go, let's try to fix that. Remember what we have to do when we explain. We have to use a visual model. So if the math planning template is too much, these are easy steps and you already have access to this. And we're just gonna continue this process. Ms. Irwin, do you have to know everything math to be able to do this? She said, I hope not. No, your math teachers have been teaching them for a while, most of them. Brand new teachers may need a little bit more, and that's when you lean on who in your campus. Site-based teacher leaders, right? Get them to give you some content support. But we continue this with the next lesson. Identify any summative assessments coming up and identify when you're gonna unpack the next mission. I will tell you something that Guerrero and O'Neill asked us to do is to start putting that in the academic affairs newsletter for you. And I think I also put a, where's my mission unpacking? I also put a link to a calendar that has ELA and math because we felt like that might be easy for y'all. So I tried to pull all guidebooks and CKLA and Shannon reviewed it, but starting in the third 9 weeks, oh, this is not the right one.